I thought when I reached the peak of my spiritual awakening, everything would stay magical, synchronicities, signs, that deep feeling of being one with the universe. But one day, without warning, everything went quiet. No more angel numbers. No dreams that felt like messages. Just silence. At first, I panicked. Did I lose my connection? Was I falling backward after everything I'd healed? But the truth was far from that. What I didn't realize was that my spiritual awakening hadn't ended, it had evolved. I wasn't being abandoned by the universe. I was being integrated into it. You see, no one really tells you what happens after the awakening. They talk about the signs, the breakthroughs, the healing, but what about the after? What about the stillness that follows the storm? That silence, it's not a void. It's not a step backward. It's a sign that your soul no longer needs to chase. It's become. You're not losing magic, you're becoming the magic. And that is a strange, quiet kind of power. Life doesn't suddenly become easier after awakening. It becomes real. The illusions fall away. You're not here to escape reality anymore. You're here to embody truth. And in that truth, things get still. Things get quiet. But don't confuse the quiet with the absence of connection. It's the presence of wholeness. If you're standing in that quiet now, wondering what happened, you're not alone. You haven't failed. You haven't gone backward. You've entered a sacred phase that no one talks about. The part where the journey turns inward. Deeper, quieter, but more powerful than ever. And this story, it starts after the fireworks end. Welcome to life after awakening. Welcome to the Eye of Wisdom, a sanctuary for souls seeking deeper truth, healing, and transformation. If you believe there's more to life than what meets the eye, you're in the right place. Through storytelling, spiritual insight, and cosmic wisdom, we explore the journey of awakening together. If our content resonates with your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with those who may need it. Every click helps us grow this conscious community and reach more awakened minds. Thank you for being here. Your presence is part of this sacred unfolding. Let's rise together. 1. From seeking to being. From seeking to being. There was a time when every day felt like magic. I saw repeating numbers, felt cosmic nudges, and lived on the edge of wonder. I was always chasing signs, always asking the universe, am I on the right path? I craved that spiritual high. That connection that made everything feel divine. It was beautiful. It was intense. It was what kept me moving forward. Then, one day, it all stopped. The numbers faded. The synchronicities went quiet. That constant buzz of energy I once felt? Gone. At first, I thought something was wrong. I questioned myself. Had I lost the connection? Did I slip backward without knowing it? But the truth hit me in the silence. I hadn't lost the magic. I had become it. You see, when the fireworks fade, what's left is stillness, not emptiness, but peace. A deep, grounded peace that doesn't need external validation. I wasn't being guided by outside signs anymore because the compass had moved inward. I no longer needed to ask for signs. I had become the answer. This transition from seeking to being was subtle. And at first, deeply uncomfortable. I missed the highs. I missed the signs. But in that quiet, I found something more powerful. Trust. Trust in myself. Trust in the universe. Trust that I no longer needed to search. Because I was already aligned. It's not that the universe stopped speaking, it's that I had learned to listen differently. The guidance didn't vanish, it simply moved inward. I became the source. And with that, came a new kind of clarity. A new kind of freedom. I stopped chasing. I started being. And that shift, though strange and subtle, changed everything. 2. The body awakens too. When the body follows the soul. After the fireworks of spiritual awakening, I expected peace, maybe even bliss. But what I didn't expect was the exhaustion. One day I felt energized, almost superhuman. The next, I couldn't get out of bed. My appetite changed. My sleep patterns were unpredictable. Old aches I hadn't felt in years came roaring back. And emotionally, it was like someone had pulled the rug out from under me. But I realized, it wasn't a breakdown. It was my body catching up. The soul awakens in a flash. But the body is slower. It processes, purges, adjusts. I wasn't broken, I was detoxing. Years of suppressed pain, trauma, and cellular memory began to surface. It wasn't graceful. Sometimes it showed up as random sadness. Other times, as old fears I thought I'd already healed. But this was deeper. This wasn't just healing, it was recalibration. My body was learning to hold a new frequency. A lighter one, a truer one, and like a snake shedding old skin, it had to release everything that no longer matched the vibration of my awakened spirit. There were nights I cried for no reason. Days when I couldn't tolerate loud noises, certain foods, or even some people. My senses sharpened, my intuition heightened. It felt like my body was waking up for the first time in years. And in many ways, it was. Because spiritual awakening isn't just about your soul, it's about your whole being becoming aligned. You can't live in higher consciousness while carrying lower frequency baggage in your cells. So the body purges, it aches, it transforms. And if you're in that phase, tired, raw, vulnerable, know this, it's working. Your body isn't betraying you. It's becoming you, the real you. Let it heal. Let it rise. 3. Sacred isolation. When disconnection becomes divine. It started slowly. A text left on read. A conversation that didn't land. Then suddenly, the people I'd once laughed with, cried with, leaned on, felt like strangers. Family members looked at me like they didn't recognize me anymore. Friends said I'd changed, but not in a way they understood. The invitation stopped. The silence grew. At first, I thought something was wrong with me. But then I realized, this was sacred. This wasn't rejection. It was redirection. I had shifted. My frequency, my awareness, my soul, it had evolved. And as painful as it was, I could no longer resonate with the people, places, or patterns that belonged to the old version of me. That kind of disconnection feels brutal, like being cast out from your own life. But what no one tells you is, it's a spiritual rite of passage. The space that once felt empty was actually being cleared. Cleared for something more real, more aligned. The people falling away weren't enemies. They were chapters. Their role in my story had come to a close. And in the stillness of that loneliness, I started to hear something deeper. My own voice, my own truth. And then, one by one, new people started to appear. People who felt familiar, not from this life, but from somewhere beyond. Conversations that didn't need explanations. Eyes that saw me. Truly, this was my soul tribe. That's the paradox. Sacred isolation is not about being alone forever. It's about becoming who you really are so you can attract those who truly match your essence. If you're in that silent valley right now, don't rush to fill it. Let it echo. Let it clear. Because what's coming is connection on a whole new level. 4. The magic fades when you become the sign. I used to see them everywhere. Repeating numbers on clocks, feathers on the ground, a song lyric playing at just the right moment. Synchronicities that felt like little winks from the universe, reminding me I was on the right path. They were magical. They were everything. And then, they stopped. At first, I panicked. Had I lost my connection? Was I doing something wrong? The signs that once lit up my days like cosmic breadcrumbs were suddenly gone. And all I was left with was silence. But in that silence, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel lost. I felt still. I didn't feel disconnected. I felt whole. That's when I realized I hadn't lost the magic. I had become it. The universe no longer needed to scream for my attention. I was already listening. I no longer searched for signs outside of me. Because something inside had clicked. I had become the sign. This was a deeper kind of knowing. One that didn't need flashing lights or angel numbers to feel guided. I had internalized the truth I'd once chased. Before, I was dependent on validation, on reassurance that I was aligned. Now, I simply know I am. Not because of anything outside me, but because of the still, unwavering presence within, and that, I've come to understand, is the ultimate magic. You don't lose the signs. You outgrow the need for them. So if the synchronicities have gone quiet, don't assume the universe has gone silent. It's simply whispering now, because it trusts you can hear. That's what happens when awakening ends. You become the awakening. You are the number. You are the feather. You are the divine reminder. And that is everything. 5. A new purpose emerges when awakening becomes embodiment. When the dust settles, and the waves of awakening have calmed, there comes a moment where you stand in the stillness and ask, "Now what?" That question used to haunt me. After all the inner revelations, emotional releases, and cosmic truths, I expected there to be some grand finish line, a final answer. But instead, what I found was something quieter and far more powerful, a new purpose. Not one I had to chase, but one that was waiting for me all along. See, before, my purpose was to awaken, to understand myself, to heal the wounds I didn't know I carried. I was climbing the mountain of self-discovery, hungry for answers, but after the awakening ended, I was no longer climbing. I was becoming. Now, the purpose isn't about finding anymore. It's about living. It's about showing up every day as who I truly am, without the masks. Without the seeking. It's about letting my life be the reflection of the inner work I've done. To embody the wisdom, not just speak it. This shift feels strange at first. You're not being pushed by the universe anymore. You're being trusted to walk on your own. It's less about, what should I do? And more about, who am I here to be? For many of us, this comes with an urge to serve, to teach, to guide, to create, or to simply be a light in our own unique way. Not out of obligation, but out of overflow. You've been filled up, and now it naturally spills into the world. This is purpose reborn, not something you seek, but something you express. Not a mission to fulfill, but a presence to embody. You don't need to force it. You just need to be it. Because when your spiritual awakening ends, your real life, the aligned one, finally begins. 6. Hypersensitivity. No one told me that once the spiritual awakening ended, my senses would feel like they had been turned all the way up. I wasn't just more aware, I was wide open. Suddenly, I could walk into a room and feel the tension in the air before anyone spoke. I could sense someone's sadness behind their smile. I became sensitive to noise, to crowds, to the energy of strangers. Even certain foods began to feel off. At first, I thought something was wrong with me. Why was I so overwhelmed by the world? Why did I need more solitude, more quiet, more grounding? But I soon realized, this wasn't weakness. This was expansion. My spiritual awakening had activated a deeper level of sensitivity. Not just emotionally or mentally, but energetically. I had tuned into frequencies I never noticed before. What once felt normal now felt too loud. Too much. This new sensitivity came with growing pains. I had to learn how to protect my energy. How to say no. How to set boundaries that honored my well-being. I had to stop taking responsibility for feelings that weren't mine. But with time, I began to see the gift in it. This hypersensitivity wasn't just about protection, it was about perception. I could read the unspoken, feel what others couldn't articulate, understand beyond words. It made me more compassionate, more intuitive, more connected. It taught me that empathy is a superpower when it's directed wisely. Now, I don't apologize for being sensitive. I embrace it. I honor the fact that I feel deeply, because it allows me to live fully. And I know that this isn't the end, it's an invitation to navigate the world with discernment, to choose what aligns, to walk softly but powerfully through a world that doesn't always understand the depth of feeling. My sensitivity isn't my burden, it's my compass. 7. A new normal. I thought that after my spiritual awakening, life would look different, more magical, more obviously high vibe. But what no one told me was this: life goes back to normal, and yet nothing feels the same. I still go to work. I still run errands. I still smile at strangers in line at the grocery store. But under the surface, everything has shifted. There's a calm now where there used to be chaos. Where I once reacted, I now respond. Where I once craved stimulation or drama, I now crave peace. At first, this return to normal felt anticlimactic, almost like something was missing. But slowly, I began to realize, this is the gift. This is integration. I'm not here to escape the human experience. I'm here to live it, deeply, honestly, fully. And the true measure of transformation isn't how magical things look on the outside, it's how grounded you feel on the inside. I used to chase enlightenment. Now, I let it breathe through me while I fold laundry, answer emails, or watch the sunset. I used to think the journey would take me somewhere else. But the truth is, it brought me back to myself. To a version of me that no longer needs the world to change in order to feel free. Because now I carry the change within me. This new normal isn't a letdown. It's liberation. And even when life feels ordinary again, I know that I am not. I've met the quiet power within. And that changes everything. Conclusion. The gateway to a new life. They never told me that awakening wasn't the ending, it was the beginning. Not the grand finale, but the doorway. A quiet threshold between the self I thought I was, and the life I was always meant to live. After all the breakdowns, the revelations, the stillness, the tears, something else begins. something real, something rooted, something unshakable. You stop chasing light and realize you are the light. You stop searching for purpose and realize you are the purpose. You stop trying to feel connected and understand you are the connection. And now, as you stand here, maybe raw, maybe still healing, maybe still adjusting to this new normal, I want to tell you something. You're not lost. You're being reborn. You're stepping into the life that was waiting for you all along. This is the moment where your truth begins to breathe. Not as an idea, but as a way of being. So what now? Now, you live it. You live with honesty, with presence, with a courage that only comes from having walked through fire and come out glowing. You live as your truest self. Unapologetically. You show up, not as someone trying to prove something, but as someone who knows their worth, because they've met their soul in silence. And if you're walking this path now, this strange, beautiful, quiet, and sometimes lonely road, know this. You are not alone. There is a whole tribe of souls awakening, just like you. So don't shrink, don't wait, be real, be light, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth. And your truth, it's time to let it shine.